Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the Extraordinary Bass Player Show. As you know, I'm your host, Sharon Moore. You know, I always say today, today, today. Well, family, look who on the show. No, this way. Yeah, this way. Look who's on the show. This gentleman, I got in a conversation with an old friend of mine named Greg Radford. And he kept telling me, he said, Sharon, you got to get Mel Brown. I said, the Mel Brown? You think I can get him?
Was he talking about me? There's two other Mel Browns.
No, he was talking about you.
All right.
I sent him some video, and he said, "Yep, that's one of my favorite."
Oh, that's awesome.
One of his favorite videos.
Tell him I said thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. As I said, you all know him. He's a studio musician, a Grammy Award winner. Is that right?
That's correct.
Grammy Award winner, recording artist. We're going to talk about that a little later on. He's an educator. He's a songwriter. As I said, would you help me welcome my guest today, bassist Mel Brown. Hey, Mel.
Good morning, Sharon. Thank you for having me.
It's my delight. I could have stayed on them credits another 2 or 3 minutes, though.
I'm lucky to be working. It's a blessing, and I'm happy for that.
Welcome to the Extraordinary Bass Player Show.
Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Yes. Mel, I'm going to keep it rather short, but I'm going to jump around a little bit. I'll go back and do some of the history stuff. Now, you're originally from Denver?
Denver, right? Colorado.
Oh, yep. Yeah. Now, before I get to your move to Arizona, I want to start in the beginning, and I want to start here because this really tickled me when I read this. You told your mom, you said, "I'm gonna play bass," and you saw the Staple Singers. Tell me about that.
Oh, that was wow. I couldn't have been more than 3 or 4, and they were on TV. And we could see the bass player. I couldn't tell you what show it was. I just know it was the Staple Singers, and we were watching. And I knew what the bass was, and I was just pointing it out to my mother, saying, "That's the one that I play. That's the one that I play." And obviously, I didn't have one. I didn't have any experience, but she was like, "Okay, you know." She didn't say no, you didn't. She said, "All right. We'll just see what that'll be," which was amazing. And that's my earliest memory of just sort of identifying with the bass and having someone else identify with me being a bass player, whatever that meant. I had no idea what it meant at the time, but I knew. So.
Mel, you remember when you got your first bass?
I do. The first bass I ever held in my hand was in the 6th grade, and the teacher's name was Diane Beer. She let me take her bass home for several days, which was amazing in and of itself. I had to give it back, and then it would be it was a long time. I was 15, 14 when I got my very first bass.
Yeah. Mel, how did you go about making a name for yourself around town when you got out with that bass? And was it the club scene or what?
Well, that's a whole story. I was very deliberate, systematic, because I consider myself a late bloomer. I didn't really know how I was going to go about it. So I started looking around and seeing that people were getting to play music. Most of the music where I was at the time, was Black music. That seemed to be the music that you had to play, to get paid. So I just very systematically started going around and listening to all of the different bands and writing down all the songs that they played. And then I would get tapes, and, back then there were tapes, Sharon. And I just started learning all the songs. And once I felt like I knew a band's songs well enough, I would go show up over there and ask if they would let me sit in. And that's how it started.
Mel, was there any college years?
Yeah, I went to school in Hastings, Nebraska. I had a great teacher there. He was an instructor. He taught classical music. His name was Dr. Greg Miller. But he loved jazz on the side. And there was a jazz band. So he really became kind of my foundation in that environment because I was conflicted inside. I went to college for human resources and accounting, but I knew that I wanted to be a musician. And Dr. Miller was my friend. He was the guy that had all the musical ability far and above anything that I ever thought that I could achieve at the time. And he was really cool to me. So that's what I did throughout college. I participated in jazz band, and anytime that I could hang out and do things with Dr. Miller, I did.
I'm listening to smoothjazz.com one day, and I hear the song by Rountree. I said, wow, the bass is nice on that. Let me see who that is. I Google, said Mel Brown on the bass. I end up going to YouTube to see if I hear some other stuff. First thing I hear is, doom, divide them in, doom, divide them in. Mel Brown on the bass. Takes this nice solo with an envelope generator. I'm hooked. Go to his website, 500 songs of sessions he's done. Maybe even more. Then I realized that the 25 songs I heard that day, he's playing bass on like 17 of them. Bad dude. I hit him up on Facebook, say, hey man, I love what you're doing. You nice playing, everything. He hits me back the next day. Nice dude. Say, hey, I heard your music too. I'm a fan ever since. I'm going to use him on the session one day. Even though I play bass, I'm using Mel Brown. Mel Brown on the bass. The bottom end. Peace.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the work you put in, both studio and live.
Oh, wow.
Some of the, later on, your work made it to some really good artist albums and whatnot. Let me just name a couple of names. And you tell me, how did it happen and what was it like? Rountree.
Wow. Okay, so in the recording studio stuff, there are very few of the artists whose records I've played on who I've had the pleasure of meeting in person. I was in LA before I was in Arizona, and I moved to Arizona because I didn't want to miss my son growing up. And I had this harebrained idea, Siobhan, that I was going to record over the internet. I just thought that that's where it was going. So I started, a friend of mine came to Arizona and gave me a recording system for my computer and showed me how to use it. His name was Darren Ron. And at the same time, I met a guy here named Michael Broning. We all started recording and sending files to one another. I started recording with Darren and sending files back and forth with me and him and with Michael Broning. And the first records that came out made it to the top 10 at the same time. Wayman Tisdale's Hang Time album and Marion Meadows' Players Club album. Well, it never stopped from then. It just kept going. Michael Broning actually produces Rountree. And so I play on a lot of Michael Broning's recordings, not all of them, but a good number of them. And Lynn was one of the artists. We cut a tune, it had to be like 2017, called Pass the Groove. It was the first song by Rountree that I'd ever played on. And it went to number one.
What was it like when you learned that you had won a Grammy for the song Morning?
They asked Michael Broning to produce Morning and another song on that record called Ordinary People. And, Michael said, hey, George asked for you. Are you open to doing it? And I said, yes. And so I got to record that song at my house. And the very first one, I sent it to Michael just saying, hey, what do you think about this direction? And he was like, it's great. I'm going to use it. And I was like, well, wait, it wasn't, wait. And that was it. So that's how it got on the record. Well, fast forward, I get a call from Michael Browning and he's like, hey, man, are you sitting down? I was like, no, but I'll sit down. I sat down. He said, we got nominated for a Grammy. I was like, what? And then later, he called again and he said, we just won a Grammy.
Mel Brown on the bass, y'all.
Mel, let's talk gear. Let's talk gear.
All right.
Endorsements. What basses are you playing? Strings, amps, so forth, even down to the pick if you're using one.
It's rare that I use a pick, but I can use one, and I do it when they ask for it on the record. The basses that I play, they used to be called Carvin, but they're Kiesel now, and I have 5 or 6 of them. All of them really great. My favorite recording bass it's a Carvin bass that they designed with Sekou Bunch called the SB 5000. So I've got 3 of those SB 5000s, and then a few Kiesels. I got a 6 and 4 5s. So yeah. Strings, Dunlop Super Brights. Shout out to Daryl Landers over at Dunlop. I've known this guy for 30 years. He took care of me back in the day with Eden amplifiers back in the 90s. Shout out to Daryl. He brought me on to Dunlop, and it's been Dunlop ever since. Amplification, Gensler. Shout out to Jeff Gensler. They have the Magellan 800. I've got a Magellan 800. I have the new Kinetics tube amp. Amazing. The new Array 12s. I use 12-inch speakers with an array in front of those speakers. All made by Gensler. I have 2 of the Magellan 350s for small combo amp situations. Gensler, man. Shout out to them. Other endorsements. Band in a Box. I use Band in a Box. Shout out to PG Music for being open to working with me. I'm using all of the Band in a Box stuff to make my online courses that'll be coming out. I'm launching a community for the book that I wrote in 2006 called From Zero to Sideman. It'll be an online course and community where people can discuss life as a sideman, and it also teaches people how to do it.
Well, we do a thing on the show we call Word of Advice, where I ask the guests, I ask the artists if they would leave a parting word of advice for the up-and-coming guys, up-and-coming girls, bassists, musicians, even the people at the next level. Would you leave them a word of advice?
Yeah. I mean, not to move into a political thing, but right now the arts is under fire. The arts is under attack in a whole lot of ways. People believe that music should be free. So the value that they place on you being a musician is pretty low. Art schools are struggling to survive. And the reasons that are driving that situation are connected to a lot of the ills in our society. So if I had to give one word of advice, I would say choose excellence. Choose excellence in having an open heart and having an open mind towards other people. Because if you're going to be in the music business, you will see them all from all over the world. They'll be Black, they'll be white, they'll be European, they'll be African, they'll be South American, and they'll bring their music. And that music serves a deep social purpose among their communities. Choose excellence and be open to that. Be open to them. Be open to the people that you come into contact, regardless of who they are. You're going to meet them all. They're going to be gay. They're going to be straight. They're going to be bi. Some are going to be talented. Some are going to be not talented, but however they did it, they're selling 1 million records. You're going to come across all of them. Get comfortable being around them and get good at making them comfortable around you. Choose excellence. Choose to be an excellent person. Choose to be an excellent musician, and choose to have an excellent life, because it's enriched with so many different people and things. Connection Point is one of the things that I do. I develop apps. I'm a tech nerd. I love building websites and I love technology. Connection Point is actually a business that's based on the device that I use to introduce myself.
Mel, there's a question I usually ask the guests at the end of the show. And that is, Mel, what do you want your legacy to be said, to be told?
Wow. It's funny that you asked that. I think about it a lot, Sharon. I hope that my legacy is a few things that are important to me. One of the things that I hope is that on bass, that I've made enough of a statement that I've contributed to the art of being a bassist. That's first and foremost. I'm a bassist at heart. I'm a musician, and I hope that I've added to the body of knowledge that's worth knowing. So there's that. Also, I hope that by making internet recording my main gig so early on, that it encourages others to not be afraid of being the only person doing it your way, because that might be the way. You know, the fool that thinks that they can change the world is usually the person that can. So I hope that there's a big part of the music business, Sharon, that it's always been underserved. You can always go on YouTube and find out how to play this, how to play that. But what's really starting to happen now, and I believe that I've made a contribution with the book that I wrote called From Zero to Sideman, that really gets focused on that information that they don't teach you in school. Here's how you get a job as a musician. And here are the lifestyle and professional implications of what that means. And not only that, here is a practical set of instructions and guidelines that you could follow to not just to make a decision about whether that's what you want to do or not, but if you choose to do it, that this is a reliable pathway that you can follow. And if you do the work, and if you got the goods, that you can succeed. I hope I've added to that.
I don't think you not only added to it, I think in many ways you changed the game.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I think you changed the game. I've had some bass players and musicians when they knew I was having you on today, they kind of gasped for air.
Oh, wow.
But I did get a comment from a dear friend of yours who said to me, ask him if it's okay for you to give me his number. And that was Lan Richards, the drummer.
Oh, absolutely. You know, when I got the job with Gladys Knight, that it was because of Lan. Here I was in LA. I called Lan a couple of times and let him know that I was in town. And there wasn't anything happening right then. But, you know, you get to a city like LA and you see how many people there are. And you start getting a real good taste of like, oh, okay, they're all here. And I mean, 99 out of 100 of them can really play better than you can. And, you know, Land had faith in me. Here I am handing out this CD-ROM and doing all of this crazy thing that no one had ever seen or heard. So you know how that can be. Like, what is he doing with that thing? Who's going to watch that? Like, what are you doing? Well, Land, he got me connected with Benjamin Wright. He picked up the phone and called Benjamin Wright on my behalf.
Mel, let me say, thank you so much for being on the Extraordinary Bass Player Show.
Oh, man. Thank you for having me. It is an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much. I've watched the show, other people that you've had on, and you always get the best people, and they always have amazing insights. So, yeah, it's a pleasure to be counted among them.
Will you help us wave goodbye to all the fans?
What would you like me to do? I'm waving.
Again, thank you so very much, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll talk soon.
All right, Sharon.